One of the things I do within my business is I have some very unique offerings that nobody else does that they can only get through us. So that kind of puts us to the top of our game in that market as far as positioning. All of those kind of things I didn't know in the beginning, and I think that's all part of growing and evolving. And every time I would get to one of those evolving points, I would have to reevaluate and relook at things. But to me, that was all part of forward movement and progress.
This is The Entrepreneur Way with Neil Ball. Unlocking the secrets of successful entrepreneurs 7 days a week. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter at Neil D. Ball. Napoleon Hill said the power of the mastermind is the driving force. To discover how you can unlock the potential in your business using the power of a mastermind, go to mastermindunlimited.com. And now, here is your host, Neil Ball.
Hello, it's Neil Ball. Thank you so much for joining me today on The Entrepreneur Way. The Entrepreneur Way is about the entrepreneur's journey, the vision, the mindset, the commitment, the sacrifice, failures and successes. I'm so excited to bring you our special guest today, Robinn Lange. But before I introduce you to him, I have a quote for you. Janis Joplin said, "Being an intellectual creates a lot of questions and no answers." The Entrepreneur Way asks the questions so we all get the insights, inspiration and ideas to apply in our businesses. Robinn, welcome to the show. Are you ready to share your version of the Entrepreneur Way with us?
I am so excited to be here, Neil, and you've got it. I am ready to open the top and just let it all come out.
Absolutely fantastic, Robinn. Thank you for coming on the show. Our guest is Robinn Lange, who is an entertainment business expert who has been an insider in the entertainment industry for over 35 years, enjoying great success as an entertainer, an agent, a talent broker, a promoter, and producer. As an entertainer, he has performed for audiences worldwide. As an entertainment business expert, he has trained, coached, and been a consultant for entertainers, entrepreneurs, and entertainment venues. He has been featured on the Oprah Winfrey Show, Good Morning America, MTV, VH1, ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox News. Through his entertainment agency and being a producer of events nationwide, he has represented and worked with a virtual who's who in show business, including George Burns, Steve Allen, Phyllis Diller, Tony Bennett, Tom Jones, Kenny Rogers, Willie Nelson, the Beach Boys, the Monkees, Loretta Lynn, Don Rickles, John Stamos, and Michael Jordan, as well as hundreds of show business agents, producers, and other entertainment industry professionals. He is the author of the Entertainment Career and Business Opportunities Directory. Please welcome Robinn Lange. Robinn, can you provide us with some more insight into your business and personal life to allow us to get to know more about what you do and who you are?
Yeah, my name is Robinn Lange, and I am based out of Las Vegas, Nevada, and I specialize in entertainment business. I have been in the business 40 years now, and basically what I do is threefold. I'm still active in the business. I own several entertainment agencies, and I'm a producer and a promoter. But I also help teach and train and educate people on the different jobs, careers, and business opportunities that are available in entertainment, live entertainment. And I also work with, clients as far as coaching and training and people that want to get into the entertainment business or want to learn more about the opportunities, as well as current entertainers, whether they be local or whether they be well-known celebrities that, need education or want to learn more about their craft.
Mm-hmm. So when you talk about the entertainment business, can you just give us a little bit more of an insight into what that's about, or the types of things that you help people get to understand about it?
Yeah, with my experience, I guess that's kind of what's unique is I've had experience in several key areas as an entertainer themselves, as an agent or as a producer, as a promoter, And of course, as an educator and trainer, so I get to understand the business on levels that a lot of people don't. A lot of people will look at a singer or a band or a comedian and just see them for that art, but they don't understand the business behind it. And what I've done, one of the things that I have is a book that's out called The Entertainment Career and Business Opportunities Directory, and I take 40 different entertaining businesses, live entertainment businesses that people can start. They work real well for home-based, work-at-home businesses or something you can start part-time. And like I say, a lot of people are looking for a second income or looking to start their own business or have that entrepreneurial spirit and bug and are looking to do something. And a lot of times when people are thinking of along those lines, they don't think of entertainment as a business opportunity. You know, we've all been to a party and seen a DJ or a kid's birthday party and seen a magician or a kid's entertainer, or we've all been to a concert or a comedy club and seen a comedian or a band, but we don't think of the business sense of it or the business opportunities behind it, as well as other non-performing kind of entertainment businesses, such as being an agency owner, an event planner, somebody that books their acts into different venues. So there's a lot of different opportunities that they work on all different levels. So if you're a single parent, a couple, a partner, business partners, there's a lot of different opportunities that I help educate people to, and also have the resources to help them if they're interested in pursuing.
Mm-hmm. So you talk, I mean, obviously you've given us a good overview there. So can you just sort of dig a bit deeper into one of them and just give us a bit more? I mean, obviously these acts don't just turn up at venues. There must be some kind of process behind them actually doing that and the management and the things behind it. Can you just talk us a little bit more through that?
Yeah, and I think that's, there's a lot of misconceptions or misperceptions about entertainment and entertainment business, and that's one of them. Everybody has gone to a concert and seen their favorite group in concert, and that's all they think about it. They think, oh, this group is playing at that venue and tickets are this much, mm-hmm. and can I get tickets? Can I get good tickets? And that's about it. But what they don't realize is that concert hall, that venue, doesn't just call up, the Eagles or Paul McCartney and say, I want to book you on April 2nd. What happens is there's a whole business sequence that goes on that leads up to that most people aren't aware of. There's a promoter, and the promoter would call up Paul McCartney or the Eagles or their management and say, I would like to book them at my venue. They go out, the promoter goes out and leases the venue. The promoter puts the tickets on sale and does the advertising, and the promoter is the one that's paying the artist, the band. And in good, proper business, of course, what you want to do is you want to promote it, you want to hype it, you want to use media, and you want to, through ticket sales and merchandise and parking and everything else, generate much more income than that artist is costing you, than their fee, and that's where a promoter makes their money. And it's same for a producer. A promoter will hire maybe a producer to handle the sound and the lighting and all of these kinds of things. So the other part of what I do is familiarize people with these behind-the-scenes opportunities. And in reality, that's where real business is conducted. There are many, many great entertainers. I don't care if they're bands or great singers or the kind of acts that you see on Britain's Got Talent or whatever, and you know that you can see great talent, but that doesn't mean that they're doing well or successful because they don't have that business part behind them. And there's an old adage in our business. It's called show business, and that means there's two parts to what we do. There's the show and there's the business. And in reality, the second part of that statement is business is the longer word of the two. And people like to equivalent that to there's much more success is created in the business part than just in the show. There's so much more than just the show. But of course, that's what people see. That's what people think of when they think of entertainment. And when they realize that, geez, that's kind of fascinating. I'd like to be an agent or an agency. And through my career, I started very young in a family band back in the days when, oh my goodness, the Osmonds and the Jacksons and the Cowsills and the Beach Boys were big, and our parents were our managers. And so I kind of learned the business at a real young age. I actually grew up in it. And I have had this inner conflict through my whole life of enjoying both parts of it. I liked being the entertainer, and I still entertain. I have a couple of different things that I tour with. But even more so, I like the business side, and I have had my agency and production company almost since the very beginning. As soon as my parents decided they were done with the band and didn't want to manage us anymore, I created that business side of things and have been doing that ever since, and have enjoyed the balance between the two, between being the talent and the artist and being the business behind it all.
So when you talk about you talk about promoting the business behind this as one of the things that you do, then obviously there are very well-known people that everybody's aware of, and there are less well-known people that people aren't aware of. I mean, at what level can people get into with this as a business? I mean, obviously the more experienced people, presumably, the bigger people, the bigger celebrities or stars. But how does somebody go through that journey?
Well, even the most biggest celebrities or stars usually all start locally somehow, some way, in their home area. You know, that's one of the misconceptions I get is, oh, here in the States, do you have to move to Hollywood or New York or Las Vegas to get into the business? And in reality, you don't. There are entertainment markets and venues in almost every area, whether they are nightclubs or comedy clubs or schools or churches. There's just so many different ways to start honing your craft and your talent. If you're the talent, if you're the artist, and what's good is, and here's where the conflict comes in, Neil, is a lot of people that are entertainers are creative sorts. You know, they're artists. They like that creativity, and because of that, they get they're not interested, or they're not as attracted, or sometimes even bored with the mechanics of business. And that's where opportunities come in for people like myself. Is you can see some great entertainers. They just don't want to put in the effort or know how to do it or don't want to commit to it. They just want to be the talent. And there are plenty of opportunities for people to say, okay, I would like to be somebody that harvests this talent and gets them bookings, gets them work, whether it's as a manager or an agent. And, I'm working with somebody right now that had been an entertainer for, maybe 15 years and enjoyed it. But because of some physical disabilities, can no longer do it. So they came to me and they said, I'd like to open an agency in my area. And about 3 weeks ago, he put some ads out and rented a banquet facility that had a stage and lighting and sound, and held a day of auditions. And I think out of it, he picked up 15 different artists, a little bit of everything, every kind of artist. He had some magicians. He had a couple of clowns. He had 2 or 3 bands, a duo. I can't even remember what else they told me they got. It was a gentleman and his wife. And now they are representing those 15 people. And, of course, so in that particular business as an agent or an agency, the two sides of the equation are you've got to have the talent, and then you've got to have the accounts or the venues to book them in. And that's what he's in the process of right now. He's got 2 or 3 venues, and he's trying to find matches, knowing the venues and the clients he has, what kind of entertainments best suit their need, entertainers or entertainment. And that's what he's trying to do. He's kind of the middleman that puts it all together for him.
Mm-hmm. And this is the type of stuff that your book explains, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you enjoy most about what you do, Robinn?
I enjoy the fact that, we're in entertainment. We're in showbiz. What we do ultimately brings smiles and joy and celebration to people. Most people, when they have entertainment, it's some kind of a celebration, or it's a venue like a nightclub that offers it. That's one of their attractions, and people go there for the sole purpose of having a good time. So I think that's a big part of it, whether it's, providing the entertainment at somebody's wedding, which is hopefully the most special day of their life, and they're choosing you and trusting you and your company to provide their needs. And, people come with a great time in mind. And so I think the whole atmosphere is one part of it. The other thing is probably just the above standard earning potential. That's one of the things I hear from a lot of people that have bought my book or that are looking to get into entertainment is it's like, my goodness. And we don't think of it in the terms of business, but just think, for example, on the most basic level of a kid's party entertainer. Say you've got little Johnny is having his 5th birthday, and they've hired a magician. And the magician's going to come, and maybe they've got one of these bounce houses or something like that. And they call up the local agency or they call up the local magician direct. And just think about it. That magician, maybe for that 45-minute show, might be charging $200-$300. And, there's a lot of people that have to work a week or, half of their work week to make $200 or $300 or whatever the equivalency is, And so entertainment offers some income opportunities and multiple streams of income and a lot of opportunities that other small business or business opportunities might not have. So as you delve into it bigger, you see, oh my goodness, if I'm an agency and I've just booked a magician, a clown, and a bounce house at little Johnny's birthday party, well, you're making a commission or a fee off of every one of those things. And then you have certain party planners and agencies that also offer the cakes and the decorations and, party favors and everything else that are all part of their services, or a disc jockey or whatever. So there's a lot of opportunity that, and like I say, we've all been to parties like that or somewhere that's had entertainment, but we don't think of that entertainer as being a business opportunity.
Mm-hmm. What is it that drives you?
What drives me, I'm very fortunate in the fact that I've helped launch or pioneer certain areas or certain trends in entertainment in America. So I'm always one of these people that are looking for the next thing or the next trend or the next wave. And at the same time, I like working with the artists that appreciate the business so much more. In other words, for example, we were talking before about Davy Jones and the Monkees. And when the Monkees hit in the 60s, they were a big thing and they were all caught up in it. And it was a whirlwind and it was nonstop worldwide fame, and then it ended. And then they kind of got a second wave in the 80s and 90s. And, Davy performed right up until he passed away 4 years ago. And what I found is artists like that, the second time, once they've done it, once they've kind of come down a little bit and had more perspective, they work much harder and they're much more appreciative of what they are able to do and what they've had in their fans and the opportunity as they continue on. So I work with a lot of retro artists from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and that's one of the things I enjoy about that too. So it's pioneering new things, and it's also when we book a lot of these retro artists, the people that are coming to their show are now 2 or 3 generations, and it means something to them. It's part of their youth. They grew up with them. It touches them on a personal level. So that fulfilling part is what I enjoy, and just the fact that entertainment is just such a fun industry to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you relax when you're not working in your business?
Oh, boy. If you ask people close to me, they'd probably tell you I always work. And I think part of that is because I enjoy so much what I do, and the work that we do is closely related to leisure. I could be on, and this happens all the time, Neil. I'll go on a vacation with my family, and of course I'll think, well, I'm not going to work while I'm on vacation, and then we'll be by the pool, or we'll do something while we're out, go out to dinner one night, and the next thing you know, they'll have an entertainer there, and it's just my default setting, thinking, oh my gosh, this guy is great, or oh, something like this would work back home or back in Vegas, or I'd love to bring this to Vegas or Branson or somewhere else. So my hobby is also what I do, but I just like spending time. My daughter is also in the business. She's a model. I've kind of managed and steered her career, and we've got another book out for promotional event modeling. And so I just enjoy hanging with her and watching her grow up and seeing her do so well as an adult now.
Okay. And do you have any entrepreneurial role models?
Yeah. it's an odd question because when I started in this entertainment business, one of my biggest frustrations is there was no information available about this. You could go to a library and find things about, how to be in a band, or maybe how to try to land a record deal, or maybe how to be a magician, but it was very specified information. It wasn't about the industry itself. And that's one of the reasons I'm doing what I do now when I coach and teach and train, and in my book and other resources I have available to help people become familiar and show them the step-by-step path to get into the entertainment business. Is this wasn't available, so that's what I learned along the way. And I had so many people. George Burns, the great George Burns, a comedian who lived to be 100 years old, took me under his wing early on and taught me about comedy and early theater and vaudeville here in the States. More modern people, I'm a big fan of Oprah Winfrey. I'm from Chicago, and I've just been fortunate enough to be affiliated with Oprah and Michael Jordan, the great basketball player Michael Jordan. And, Oprah, both of them, I met very early on. I met Oprah before she was even really having the Oprah Winfrey Show. She came and she was the replacement host for a morning talk show that existed in Chicago called AM Chicago. And it was there at AM Chicago that she really became into her being, and they offered it to her and offered her to syndicate, and then it became the Oprah Winfrey Show. And all the times that I was on her show, it just was amazing to be around her, the way she thought, the power that she had, the way she treated people, the way that she looked at it as a business first. She was well aware of what went out on the air, but she wanted to make sure that she was giving her people the best product, and she appreciated her customers, or in her case, her fans, so much that was always the thing that was her driving force. So I would say Oprah is a big one. And just so many of the people I've met along the way, everybody has contributed something to what ultimately has become Robinn Lange.
Mm-hmm. Robin, what I'd like to do now is just talk to you about the time before you were an entrepreneur. What difficulties did you have to overcome when you started your business? I mean, you obviously alluded to the lack of information about it, so that's part of it, I guess. But what else was there?
Yeah, that was a big part of it, the lack of information and just not knowing how to do it. I got the bug very early on when I was 5. I got a guitar for my birthday. I formed my band still as, maybe 12 years old before I turned 13. And there's just, okay, we got a band. We can do 30 songs. How do we get booked? Where do we get booked? We're kids. Who's going to book? Oh my gosh, there was just no rhyme or reason, no direction. The people you normally turn to for wisdom and knowledge and assistance, like your parents, my parents were more lost than I was, So that was the biggest thing, were those kind of obstacles. And then the other thing was, and I didn't realize it at the time, Neil, but it was knowing where I was, knowing where I wanted to be, and not knowing how to get there. And I don't mean because I didn't have the information. Even if I had the information, it's like, okay, well, how do you do this? How do you get from small town anywhere to Hollywood, to Broadway, to the West End? It's very a little frustrating like that. And that's where these mentors that took me under their wing kind of showed me the way. And if they not just showing me the way, but gave you the encouragement, you've got to seek your opportunities. You've got to learn how to. I think the biggest misconception that I had then and that I still see in entertainers today is they think talent alone will be enough to make it. Somehow, some way, if they have the talent, they'll be discovered. They're going to be at the laundromat, the grocery store, the car wash, somewhere out in public at a stoplight, and somebody's just going to magically discover them. And that just is not the way it works. Sure, there are 1 or 2 stories of things like that happening, but that's the exception rather than the rule, And so that's what I think a lot of it was getting. What I didn't know was how to stick with it through thick and thin. The entertainment business, more than any other business, when you're beginning, and especially when you don't know what you're doing, there's a lot of rejections. You know, I hear it from actors all the time. I went on 200 auditions before I even got a call back. Well, that's 200 rejections. That's being disappointed, let down, feeling you're not good enough, thinking, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? 200 times. That's why when you see a famous actor, and you know that, you know, most of them it didn't just fall on their lap. There was some kind of effort and struggle and determination to make that happen. And I think so that's a big thing that the younger me didn't understand. And I just wish now, looking back, that the learning curve could have been shorter, where I could have enjoyed the success sooner. I'm glad I stuck with it and saw it through. And I think that's one of the things I'm doing with my book and my resources, is trying to shorten that learning curve and give people an overview and a blueprint of how to do it, so they can focus on forward movement rather than what's not happening to me. Why am I not being discovered? Why am I being frustrated and self-doubt?
And did you have any doubts that delayed you starting your business?
Yeah, I did a little bit. You know, they weren't doubts that I didn't believe. You know, I knew, unlike a lot of people, I knew when I was 12 that I wanted to be in entertainment. And there hasn't been a day, not a day, an hour, a minute, that I've questioned that or doubted that or, you know, wanted to rethink that. If anything, I've restructured or rethought what I wanted to do underneath the umbrella of entertainment. So many entertainers, for example, just do one thing and it's hit or miss. It either works and is popular or it's not. There's a peak and a valley. It's either up, they're down. But I didn't. I decided I wanted to be all-encompassing in entertainment because my mentors were all-encompassing. So that was something that I really focused on more. I think there were certain events along the way, like when my parents were no longer our managers, when the family band kind of fell apart, and I started having to go to outside entertainers, musicians. When I got married and had my daughter, of course, there was a lot of pressure. In the early days when I was starting in entertainment, it wasn't even considered a legitimate profession. You couldn't go out and get a mortgage or a car loan or a credit card. If you put entertainer down there, they just kind of rolled their eyes like, that's not a real job. So I think one of the things that I'm proud of too is and I hope I played a part of it, was kind of legitimizing the entertainment business. We all know celebrities. Okay, they do well. Everybody knows that is entertainment, but there are so many different levels of local, regional entertainers that are unknowns. These people still can make an executive living. They still work very hard. They just don't want to pack it up and move and play that game. They have a different business plan, and it's working very well for them. So it was acknowledging that as well. And for me, the other break that came is I was on Oprah on her national show when she was syndicated right around the time that the internet hit. And both of those, without me trying, kind of propelled me from being kind of a local or regional agency and performer to becoming national and international. I mean, to think that, 22 million people saw that Oprah episode in I don't know how many different countries, 16, 18, 30, I can't even remember what the number was. I started getting calls literally within a couple of days from people all over the world that was all of a sudden knew who I was and interested in my company. And because one of the things I do within my business is I have some very unique offerings that nobody else does that they can only get through us. So that kind of puts us to the top of our game in that market as far as positioning. All of those kind of things I didn't know in the beginning. And I think that's all part of growing and evolving. And every time I would get to one of those evolving points, I would have to reevaluate and relook at things. But to me, that was all part of forward movement and progress.
Mm-hmm. And what mistakes did you make that slowed your journey?
Oh, there were a few things, a few people that I put my money into or I would represent that didn't work well. In real estate, there's a saying that if you're a real estate investor, you want to buy strategically, not emotionally. And a few of the things I did along the way were more emotional based than they were probably in the best interest of my business or strategy based. I tried to go, when I went, international or national with international options on some things, I tried to grow too fast. And I tried to, in the name of growth, I brought a lot of people into the fold that probably weren't the right people or weren't developed enough. And I trusted them a little too much and gave them a little too much responsibility and got a little caught up in the growth or the widespread notoriety we were getting. And if I had to do that again, I think what I would have done was scaled it a little differently, and maybe I was in such a hurry to take advantage of the moment. That was the thing. I didn't want the opportunity to pass. So I think a lot of times when that happens, some of the decisions aren't in the best interest of your long-term success, or they may compromise other areas of your business. So to me, I think that would have to be it. It was just how things played out and evolved, and maybe making a little more intelligent decisions rather than emotional.
Yeah. And what are some of the things that you did before you started your business that'd be helpful tips to some of the listeners who haven't yet taken the first step on the entrepreneur way?
Well, because I started in the business so young, I really hadn't done much. But, oddly enough, and I don't think I've ever told this story before, but I sold worms. You're
making me think of that film Dumb and Dumber now.
Well, thank you. I hope nobody thinks I inspired that. But no, we lived near a lake, and there was a drugstore down a couple blocks at the end of our house that sold night crawlers or worms or bait for the fishermen. And nowadays, they have these in vending machines, which is very odd to me, but I guess it works. But in those days, you didn't. You actually had to go in, and some guy he harvested these night crawlers, these worms, and then he would say, I want 24 of them, and he'd go into the mud, and he'd pick out 24 of them and put them in a cup and sell them to you. And anyway, the drugstore was changed management, and they didn't offer that service anymore. And so I decided, I don't know what it was, but it was like that entrepreneurial mindset, if you will, that said, well, geez, if there's so many people that are interested in this, and I'm right on the way to the drugstore, these people would have to pass my house to get to that place anyhow, I'm going to do this. So I told my parents, and I think they kind of laughed a little bit, but they're like, sure, well, we'll get you the things that you need. And they build me some wooden crates, and I got all the right kind of dirt and peat moss and everything you needed, and put the sign out front, and it was kind of reminiscent of like a kid's lemonade stand. The first week or two I sat out there, and the thing is the fishermen start right at dawn. So I'd have to get out there at like 5 or 5:30 in the morning, and I had this little sign saying, bait for sale, and people pulled right up. I had my table right along the curb. So people would pull up, and in these days we really didn't have drive-throughs, but that's what they did, is they'd pull up right to my table, and they'd say, give me 24 worms. And okay, here you go, $2. And they'd be off. And I kid you not, Neil, once it got going, I had a line of 3 or 4 cars at a time. And if I had to go into to go to the bathroom or to get a water or something, cars would pull up, and if they didn't see me there, they'd start honking. And here I was, 8, 9, 10 years old. And I started it with my brother, but he wanted to sleep in. He wanted that. I don't need $2 that bad. So I did it myself, and geez, I was making $20, $30 a day as a 10-year-old. So I think just having that entrepreneurial spirit a little bit helped. I think the other thing early on is I've always been fascinated with human behavior. Why do people do this? And it can be men trying to figure women out, which, we still haven't figured out. It can just be, why do people do what they do? Why do they, as entertainers, we're constantly thinking that. What is my opening song going to be? What's going to be my big bang? What's going to be my finale? What's going to be my encore? You think in terms of not what do I want to do, what generates the response that I want. And luckily enough, through this entrepreneurial spirit and this mindset, I had that very early on. what is the response that I'm going for, and what do I need to do to get it? So I don't know if you want to call it human behavior, psychology, just being a people watcher, but those kind of things. And then just the fact that I just loved handling money. I remember getting yelled at because after these cars would come by and buy my worms, it was cash, and I had all this cash there, and I was always counting it. And I remember my parents coming up to me saying, hey, don't do that. That doesn't look good. That's not good business. And it's just like in the game of poker. You don't want to count your winnings while you're at the table. Wait till you're done, So it was just fascinating to me that I could do something that I kind of enjoyed and make money with it. And here I am, over 40 years later, still doing that. Except my hands don't get as dirty now with the worms.
Oh, what a great story that was. I've had people on here who've talked about lemonade stands, but I've never had anybody here who sold worms, and certainly not a worm drive-through. That's just amazing.
and I'll be honest with you. You kind of bring out things in people, I guess, because I haven't thought of that, I bet you, in 35 years.
Yeah.
And just the minute you asked the question, I don't know why I didn't think about it. That's where my mind went.
Yeah, so you didn't ask them if they wanted to supersize it or something, did you?
See, now if I'd have thought of that, then I would have, I'd had an upsell.
Oh. Yeah, you could have thrown in some maggots or something as well, or something. Large maggots.
Oh my God. And somehow, some way, I think it would have worked. I just loved it. And they were so faithful, so religious. I got to know these people by names. And I remembered once or twice, I had a guy, and I don't know what kind of fish it was, but there were certain fish, maybe it was, I don't know if it was catfish, I don't know, that were biting on minnows, which were little bitty fish. And I remember buying some minnows. I went to a pet store and bought a bunch of minnows once, and I did the same thing. I said, well, I've also got minnows today too, and I sold out of them. So it's almost what you're saying is so true. If I'd have had maggots, or if I'd have really been serious about that, Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
What I'd like to do now is talk about your entrepreneurial journey a little bit more now, Robinn. So do you think culture is important from the beginning in a business?
Yeah, I do. And I think that's part of what I said. I talked about it, how it pertains to our audience, whether it's the audience in a performance or whether it's an audience as far as our customers, and the psychology and their needs and their interests and their wants. But I think the business culture within is just as important. And one of the things in entertainment, because we attract creative people even to the business side, a lot of them are very bohemian type people that just, they don't like rules. They just want to be casual. They want to kind of structure isn't their strong suit. So one of the balances that I had to have was make it casual and yet professional. Make it inviting to these artists, but at the same time create a professional culture for our internal employees and people that work for us, as well as our clientele. So culture, I think, is something. It's just like in live performance dynamics come into play. How close the audience is, how much space I have to my left, right, upstage, downstage. Performance dynamics are important, as are business dynamics, cultural dynamics. And I think I put just as much effort into that. And I think maybe where I might have gone wrong a little bit was I tried to adapt our culture to the people that I had, thinking if I made them happy, they would be more loyal, or they'd be, better employees or more productive. Where in reality, it wasn't so bad. I didn't change much to accommodate people, but I think now looking back, I should have maybe been a little more in control of culture and our culture anyhow, and made people more adapt to it.
Mm-hmm. Knowing what you know now, is there anything that if you'd known it when you started out would have helped you to shortcut the learning curve?
Well, of course, there's no substitute for experience. I think in the very, very, very beginning, I was so set in wanting to do it my own way. And I had another wave of that after the family group broke up and I went on my own, that I didn't want a lot of help. I didn't want a lot of input. I didn't want a lot of assistance. And it was more when I opened myself up to mentors that changed a little bit. So I think, having the knowledge or assistance, opening myself up to those that wanted to help me, those that could help me, or even seeking out people who could help me without even realize they were helping me. I know once I got into radio and I started interviewing people, my goodness, the stuff I learned from people just from having conversation or asking that was never in a book or a curriculum, formally anywhere. So I think a lot of it would have been stepping outside of your business and seeing the whole equation, the whole scenario, not just when I was an entertainer, just a performer. I just look at things through the eyes of the performer. Now I'm lucky enough to have experience in so many different areas that I look through them through all of those different eyes. And I wish I'd had that perception ability back in the beginning.
Yeah. And how much does gut feeling influence your decisions in your business?
Very, very much. I've learned that my personal preference early on, everything was ruled by what I wanted or what I believed. And then as I learned the business more, I learned what was best for the business or what was best for our customers or our audience. And I've just had a very good gut feeling as far as I think I am so in tune with our clients and our audience that I know what they want a lot of times even before they realize or know what they want. And most of that comes from my gut feeling. I know the business well enough, and I know how people buy or are interested in entertainment enough to know the process both emotionally and strategically. So I think my gut feeling, my gut intuition, guys call it a gut feeling, women call it intuition, but I think that comes into play quite a bit in not just what I do on a daily basis, but on my successes up to this point.
Yeah. Life is made of constant change, whether we like it or not. And many people say that the only constant in life is change. Robinn, how do you try to keep up with change?
Two ways. One is by being contemporary. In other words, staying up on trends. I never feel I'm too big for the industry where I know it all. I follow the trades. I follow the trends. I go to industry events. Like I say earlier on, I pioneered or created some of these things that didn't exist, some certain markets. And because of that, I think I'm always on the lookout for what's coming or what's ahead or what could happen or what I could make happen. So I think part of it is that perception and staying contemporary, being and I'm not saying you've got to do everything that's contemporary. When rap music and hip hop came out, I realized that was going to be popular. I realized that was a trend, but I also realized it was not for me, my company, or my clients. So we didn't do much with that. I think at the same time, you've got to know what's right and what's wrong for your business and your clients, and a lot of times that going back to your gut feeling, I think that kind of can tell you or dictate it. So I think staying contemporary is part of it, and I think the other part is not being afraid to try things, and I guess I specialize in safe bets, because there's no substitute for knowledge, and knowledge will usually give you the right tools or the right set of circumstances to make some pretty safe decisions. So I think that's it. I think being contemporary and then being willing to take the risk.
And what is your favorite book on entrepreneurialism, business, personal development, leadership, or motivation? And can you tell us why you have chosen it?
Well, I I really don't know. Part of my problem was early on is I couldn't find any books, and that's why I've dedicated so much time to writing and doing this stuff. So I have to say that my books are some of my favorites, but my goodness, I can't think. Let me think. I have a book that I'm reading right now, and I can't think of the name of it or the author, to be honest with you. I started reading it, I put it down, and I haven't gotten back to it. But I'm kind of a junkie for anything business, entrepreneur. I've kind of got derailed here the last year or two, and I've been reading a lot of stuff about social media and social media business and marketing. And while my head is spinning with a lot of it, it kind of has derailed me to things. You know, of course, I like all the Carnegie stuff. Yeah. I like some of Tony Robbins' material. I like Brendan Burchard here in the U.S. I love his material. I'm into mindset. I'm into, Deepak Chopra. And so not necessarily books as much as people and their beliefs and kind of following them.
Everybody, when you have a busy life, listening to audiobooks is a great way to expand your knowledge in the time when you may be doing other things, such as driving or when you are at the gym. We have a special offer for you of a free audiobook of your choosing. To choose your free audiobook, go to www.freeaudiobookoffer.com. As long as you've not already signed up, then you will qualify. Robin, what I'd like to do with you now is just speculate about a few things about the future with you. So, what one thing would you do with your business if you knew that you could not fail?
If I could not fail, I would probably, going back to what I alluded to earlier, is there is more opportunity in our field right now than I think there's ever been. A lot of it is due in part to the internet and social media and things like that. So I think what I would do is I would probably want to scale and become larger. And some of the obstacles that, when we did it the first time, I think I'm wiser to. And I think the landscape, like I say, has changed. But I think I've always kind of control has been a big part of, my brand is so closely related to me that I very much like to control things, and I think that's been one of my weaknesses in trying to scale or expand. So I think if I knew that wouldn't be a problem, it would be trying to go bigger and better and keep improving ourselves.
And what skill, if you were excellent at it, would help you the most to double your business?
Oh my goodness, what a great question. I've got to say, understanding and working and mastering social media, I think would help us a lot. I think what I'd really like to get in, what I'd really love to do, and this hasn't been available yet, but if I could clone myself, if I could make 50 of me, that would help everything. That would help the culture around here. That would help me expand in any problems that I have. And I think at the same time would fix the problem, the inner things that I have no control over.
In 5 years from now, if a well-known business publication was publishing an article on your business after talking to your customers and suppliers, what would you like it to say?
Wow, I think I'd like it to say that, I always stay contemporary. I stayed up on entertainment. I operate our business from three different perspectives. I operate it from the perspective of our entertainers. So many entertainment agencies and businesses lose sight of that. I think of it from the needs and interest and perspective of our customers as well as us as a business. So I'd like to, think that we handled all three facets, all three sides of the triangle properly. That we brought some things into to the market that it didn't exist, and that we filled a void in educational content material that has not been available. America, Hollywood, show business is so big in the U.S., but it's also one of the closely guarded secrets as far as the business side of things. And I hope that we also could be known for clearing up a lot of the misconceptions. Anybody can get into entertainment. A lot of the things in my entertainment business and career directory, there's a whole section devoted to things that you don't have to have any talent for. You don't have to have musical talent or, comedy timing. You don't have to be the performer at all. Anybody can start an entertainment business and just be the business operator and use other people that you represent to be your talent. So I'd like to say it's bringing the resources to the marketplace and the industry and to people that want to learn more about it that were never available before.
We're now at the part of the show where you share 3 golden nuggets. Robinn, what is your favourite quote and how have you applied it?
I think my favorite quote is "The show must go on," and it's an old showbiz quote that I actually have 2 of them. That's one of them. The show must go on, and it applies to no matter what happens, you still got to pull through and give it your best. And it also applies to business, entertainment business, just entrepreneurial business entrepreneurial business in general. And that is, it doesn't matter how tough things are, how many obstacles, how many unknowns come up. The show must go on. Too many people go into things with outs. Even marriage, oh, sure, let's get married. And if it doesn't work, we get divorced. I mean, I like things where there aren't outs, that you're kind of forced to have to make it happen. And so the show must go on is an adage that I think really carries through, not just in the performance part of what we do, but just as a business model and everything else. And it's something that I've always believed. And the other one is you don't know what you don't know. I use that quite a bit, and no matter how long you do something or how much you think you know, there's always stuff you don't know, and you don't know how much you don't know. And that's why I think we should always be learning and growing and evolving and being open to new things. A lot of times after 40 years in the business, I don't learn a lot of new things, but I don't shut myself off to it. And especially like I say, when you're following new trends and things, you've got to be open-minded, and you just don't know what you don't know.
Mm. And I mean, I'm just thinking in your industry, obviously the internet has probably affected it just as it's affected everything else, good for good and for good bad. Is that would you say that's the case?
Yeah, very much so. In good ways, it's allowed people from all over to understand, become aware of, and learn about our services, our company, our entertainers, my educational resources. It's allowed us to be able to appear worldwide on radio shows and TV shows and podcasts. And it's really, in many ways, been very positively impacting our business. However, there are other areas of my business that have been greatly impacted negatively. I've also been an entertainment broker. And what that is there are many different event planners and entertainment agencies throughout the world, but mostly here in the U.S. were the ones that I worked with, that, they have their roster of artists, their acts, what they book. If they're a full-service entertainment agency, they might have everything from bands and disc jockeys to clowns and magicians and caricature artists and balloons and stilt walkers and comedians and game show hosts and models and actors and everything in between. But if somebody called up one of their agencies, if one of their accounts called up and said, you know what, I would like to have Jerry Seinfeld come to our annual convention or our annual leadership event. That agency doesn't have Jerry Seinfeld on their roster. So what they would do is they would call a broker, such as myself, and I would get Jerry Seinfeld for them. They would book them through us. So and that's an extreme example of a celebrity, but this happens on all kinds of different entertainers. Somebody may see somebody on America's Got Talent or Britain's Got Talent and say, I'd like to book him for our corporate event. Before the internet, they wouldn't know how to do that. So they'd have to call a local agency. They would call a broker and say, can you get me so-and-so? And we would do that. Now with the internet, people can find artists more directly. They put videos on YouTube. They've got their own websites. You can email them. And even if you can't reach them, a lot of times the emails get forwarded to their representation or something like that. So the broker side of what we do has changed greatly. I mean, it took a hit for a while where it almost became extinct. Mm-hmm. And we had to strongly restructure the way that we do things. And so, like I say, those are the two extremes. One, it's made us more accessible than ever. And on the other hand, negatively, that access has really trimmed off one branch of our company.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite online resources that you could share with us?
Online, geez. I'm trying to think here. Oddly enough, I'm not the big computer techie person.
It could just be Google.
Well, I do. I use Google a lot. YouTube is there. I think a lot of people use it. I use it for professional ways. I'm not so interested in the 12-year-old that, puts a video up there of him lighting himself on fire. That it really isn't of interest to me. But I think as a business and promotional tool, it's a great thing. I also think there are some industries, it used to be the only way you could have access to industry access. We're going to like trade events once a year. You spend a couple $1,000s for passes and to travel to these conventions or whatever. And now a lot of these industries have their websites and information at your fingertips. So oddly enough, I think just having Google and having access to this, if in the old days, if an artist wanted us to consider representing them or I was interested in somebody, we had to wait for something to arrive, and we had to track them down, send them something or call them, wait for something to come in the mail. And now the fact that things can be so instant through the internet. And then another thing that I do like is I like something called the Wayback Machine. Mm-hmm. And what it is it lets you go back and visit old versions of websites. A lot of times if I want to look at one of our old websites, or if I'm looking at an artist and I want to look at something, or a client of ours and I want to learn more about them or their management team, I can go and look at some of their older versions of their websites. So that's one that we use once in a while.
Yeah. And what is your best advice to other entrepreneurs?
The first thing, and it's so dominant, but it's also overlooked a lot, and that is getting the entrepreneurial spirit. Some people, it's a natural thing. I equate it to comedy. There are some people that are naturally funny. Some people that every word out of their mouth is hilarious. And since you remember them in grade school, elementary school, they've always been funny and cut-ups in the class clown. There are other people that can't tell a joke to save their soul. And I do believe that while comedy is natural, it can also be taught. And I think entrepreneurial spirit is the same way. Some people it's a natural, but I think it's something that can be learned or taught. So I think that's one of the first things. And I think you got to combine that with drive and taking action and perseverance and vision. I think having a vision. So many people start their journey without knowing where they want to go. And I always say, well, how do you know when you get there? How can you know if you took a detour? How do you know if something went wrong? So I think having a clear vision and charting things out allows you to focus much more directly on things. And that's something, going back to one of your earlier questions, I think earlier in my career, I just wanted to be all kinds of things and make everything happen at once, where I think now having more of a defined vision would be the other thing.
Mm-hmm. Everybody, if you didn't manage to get a note of Robinn's favourite resource or his favourite books, then you can find the links on Robinn's show notes page. Just go to the entrepreneurway.com and search for Robinn or Robinn Lange in the search box. Robinn, is there anything else that you'd like to add about your business?
No, I just think it's a great business to be in. It operates on all different levels. The big names and the big Hollywood, Las Vegas, New York, West End, London, worldwide tours that you may hear about. But it also works on a local, regional level as well. And it creates a lot of opportunities that a lot of people can find the perfect match for their entrepreneurial interest or spirit. I'm going to continue to be committed to educating and providing the resources for entrepreneurs interested in entertainment business. My book, The Entertainer's Career and Business Opportunities Directory, is available as a great starting point where you can look at 40 different options and possibilities and compare them and look at startups. And, they're very affordable. They can be done part-time. They can be done from home. And then that can be a good starting point to at least familiarize yourself with what's out there. I also have a couple of things. I've got the top 10 reasons why entertainment business offers such great opportunities, and that's available as a free resource. So if you want to order my book or the free resource, you can go to our website, which is www.entertainmentopportunities.com.
Robinn, it's been absolutely an honor having you on the show. You've told us about the entertainment business, but you've also entertained us with a great tale about your worms, which are just awesome. So thanks for that. And you've given us a lot of insight and advice, which is it's been great having you on here. So thank you very much.
Well, it's been a pleasure to be here, and you've been such a gracious host and some excellent questions. We get asked about entertainment a lot, but I don't get to talk business, the entertainment business, a lot. So it's been so great being able to talk about some of the behind-the-scenes things and really share my experience with you and your audience.
You're welcome. Thank you for that, Robinn. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to The Entrepreneur Way. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter @Neil D. Ball.